Hey everybody, welcome back to Inside Guitar Center Professional North Florida, and today's episode is all about studios. That's right, recording studios, and I'm here with my friend Jesus Vivar from Mix Theory Studios. What's up, Jesus?
What's up, Jeff? How you doing, man?
I'm doing great, man. It's so great to have you.
Thank you for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Exploring the journey from bedroom setup to professional recording studios. I think it's important to talk about skill development, studio etiquette, and business realities, and emphasizing that people and performance matter more than the equipment. Everybody sees the studio, but they don't understand all the years behind it, what it took you to get to the studio where you are today. As you can see, we're sitting in my home studio. The difference with this is, yes, this is a home studio, but it'll never be for hire. That's one thing about your home. You don't want strangers coming to your house just for money, for your skills, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Can you tell me about your studio journey from like a bird's eye view?
Well, I've been in music for a long time. My family, my father was a drummer, so my family always had music around us. I have been a DJ for many years, and that kind of led my path into production. I got to see the back end of things, and in the midst of my career and myself and the travels that I've had, I've been able to also learn from other people. And I think that's kind of helped me mold my experience and ideas on what it takes to produce or to go into something like a production studio or recording studio. So it started off at a very young age, just having that experience. But at the same time, the love for music has always kind of kept me near it. So as a DJ, as a professional DJ, I did that, on the back end. It wasn't just, even then, I always thought to myself, I can't just be a DJ, right? I need to treat this as a brand, a business. So my mentality at that point was, at first, it was just being in the clubs and having fun with it. Because music is fun, right? It comes from the heart. You do it with other people. You enjoy it with other people. And so that's what kept me going for a long time. But I realized as I kept going into my career and getting other gigs and other clients and other events, I needed to have more of a business mentality. And since then, I think that's what kind of took my eye off of that particular path and said, you know what, there's a much clearer path to do this in the professional way, in a professional manner, and be able to be successful and make money on it. So that's kind of how I got onto my journey. That's a bird's eye view.
So I think we all started out in the bedroom phase. Obviously, this isn't my bedroom. I'm not recording in my closet. This is a structural building that is built as a studio inside my house. What makes this separate than a regular recording studio is it's private. It's not for hire, right? But there is a minimal setup. Well, I mean, do you really want to invest in gear and not have the talent to be able to do it, or invest in the gear and experiment? I believe this is all just a big experiment when it comes to sound, to see what sounds best. That's how you gain experience. Did you start out in the bedroom?
Yes, like everyone else, I had to start somewhere. My setup was really, it started off with a Fisher unit that my father had. It was a very tall, old school unit. And it consisted of different pieces of equipment. There was an equalizer. It was a double tape deck. There was a radio on there. I think it was I don't think there was a CD player just yet. It had an amp. And then above that, at the very top, was a turntable. And he would play records and play his drums, because my dad was a drummer. He played the timbales. And so that's what he would do. When he would come home from work, or if he was in a band too, but he would come home and practice, and he would put on his records and he would play. And I just loved seeing that record spin. I loved the music. So for me, that was like, my living room was my first, for me, everybody says, the bedroom, but for me, it was actually the living room. It started from there, and then from playing around with his gear and messing up his needles, because they weren't meant for scratching or anything. He supported me in my love for music, and was able to get me some turntables and a mixer with an amp, speakers. I mean, he had a whole production studio. I can go into that story later on, but at a very young age, I had that as my production room, right? Being able to manipulate music and play with the equalizers and kind of get used to the sound, what the bass and the trebles and the mids did, like that was like my basic production studio there, like in the bedroom. As I grew older, then I started to incorporate, we got into computers and we started to incorporate that to, I remember Fruity Loops being like the first DAW I really played with to make beats. That's back in the days, I had Acid 3.0 and, those were the programs that I used back then, whatever I can get my hand on to build and make music.
And some of the most important things, I think probably the answer will be you experimented to learn. And that is one way of learning how signal flow and gain staging and whatnot, and just recording basics. Did your father teach you any of that type of stuff? Like, where did you gain that knowledge?
He did. And I went and I started to take courses. I pushed myself to learn more about the music end, and I started to take classes, to learn how to engineer, to know how to mix and, the different frequencies and what they did, how even soundproofing, we talked about a studio. Soundproofing is important, right? And how the sound travels, the different frequencies on how it's picked up, and how you can manipulate those as well. So that was all learned from me, basically saying at this point, and this is even before I think I was already thinking I'm going to be a DJ, right? I was a marketing analyst. I went to school. I was in college. And during those years is when I was taking those classes to learn that. That was just like a side thing that I wanted to do because I loved it so much. I just wanted to continue to do that. But I never thought I'd actually, make a career out of it, to be honest with you. It was just something that I did it just for the love of it. I wasn't doing it to say, I'm going to make money on this. I was just doing it because I loved it. I was thinking I'm going to go into marketing and media, which is another love of mine that I have as well. Having that knowledge as well helped me with my business, helped me develop the business and the business that I have now. So,
I feel you too. My audio journey started as a DJ in Spain when a friend of mine, Travis, said, "Hey, instead of going to see Sven Voth, what do you say we throw our own party? And here are some turntables and a record." And it worked way up to parties and stuff like that. And then I went to the Art Institute of Seattle for audio production. And that's where I learned signal flow and everything you needed to know about this type of stuff. One thing I did learn was garbage in, garbage out.
Oh, yeah, I learned that too. That's for sure.
The analogy my instructor gave me one time was, you can ask me to shine this piece of turd, and I can spend all day shining this piece of turd up, and it'll be the shiniest turd of all. But at the end of the day, it's still a turd.
Still a turd, man.
So at what point does performance matter more than the equipment, would you say?
I think performance is important all the way, for sure.
But so what you're saying is that you could get away with minimal gear if you had the skill set to do so.
To a point, absolutely. But you still need the right tools too, right? So recording on a cell phone can only get you so far, but recording on a microphone can get you even further, right? The sound quality is different. So the dynamics are different. But there's still a threshold that needs to be had in order to still develop something. Now, acoustically, when we're playing live, that's different, right? We're playing live instruments. But when we're recording something and we're trying to capture something, that's a little different. That's a totally different dynamic.
As a sound engineer too, man, I think that it's a lot easier to make something sound good. And they're like, "Hey man, thanks for sounding good." And it's just like, no, I didn't really do anything. It was already there. And that's special right there. That's when you know that you're working with talent, right? You can put a flag up for that. So, my first real sessions. When did you have your first real recording session?
That's a good question. I started. You mean in the bedroom wise, or you're talking about recording studio wise? Those are two different timelines. I started doing things for friends and other people.
Maybe we're jumping ahead a little too much.
Yeah, I mean, you have to start somewhere, right? So we were talking about having your own personal studio. Right. And At what point do you say, I love what I'm doing, this is great, and how do I get to that next step so that I can actually make a business out of it? Right. I think that's part of it as well. But you learning with other people, whether it's your friends or family, and at least going through that experience helps you get to the next step. I believe that experience will help you. People will challenge you, or you'll challenge someone else on what you're creating together, right? How you're capturing it too. So I think that for me, it started off, yeah. If you ask me when was my first recording artist, I started it a long time ago. I'm talking about, when I was like 18, 17 years old. I was in college playing around with those ideas of now that I'm learning these skills, how can I apply it? And that came with video too, that also came with video as well. I've always been involved with production to some level. And I feel like having the more tools you have in your tool set, the better prepared you'll be for any job that comes up, right?
I think what I was referring to was like when you start working with other people, it creates some type of pressure and expectations from others, right? And then time management becomes critical. You don't want to be the person that shows up late. There are certain things that fall into place. People have schedules, and if you have a studio that you're charging money to come to, one, you have to be ready. Two, the customer needs to be on time. So there's a thing called studio etiquette that I don't think a lot of people adhere to or know about. I know one example is that this engineer or this producer hired me. We put the studio together, and he wasn't hired. I was just there to record, and then all of a sudden he's barking at me from behind, and that was a big no-no. That was the last time I worked with that guy. So what could you say about studio etiquette? Is there something about studio etiquette that really permeates in your head, like it has to be, like this is a deal breaker if you do this?
Yeah, I guess it depends on how we, I guess it depends on how we look at it, right? So I see it from a client's perspective. It's their space that they're trying to get with their time. Immediately, one of the things that we establish, especially as a business, is say, and we have these things already stated. So having these statements somewhere where they can read it, where it says, "Hey, these are the rules.
These are the expectations.
Here are the expectations." There's already something there when someone comes to record in our studio, and we place that once they start to say, "Okay, we'd like to come in." But our door is always open to anyone that comes into the studio. We just have a place. It's like coming to your home, right? We don't expect people to just start jumping on your couches and doing a whole bunch of crazy stuff, right? So we do have rules in place as well. So, but one of the variations of a studio is also the type of studio that it is, right? So ours is, we have a lot of different variety of clients. So we try to cater to almost everyone, but there's also rules that need to be set in place. One of the things that obviously that you mentioned is tardiness. Here's the thing. We make that plain as day. Like we say, this is the hour that you're coming in. This is the hour that it ends. Anything beyond that, whether you make up for that hour, if you only have 10 minutes left to your session and you come in and you only have that studio for an hour, we have to go to the next client, if there's something booked. Otherwise, we'll have to charge you for more time. But having those legitimate reasons of saying this is why, communication's the other thing. We are very flexible with our clients. If something happens and they can't make it or something's happening like that, hey, can we start later on? Can we push the time? We are flexible with that. But for the most part, yeah, especially if you're with a group of people and you're waiting for someone to show up that's part of your band. I've had, a band come in, like a 5-piece band or a jazz band or something that comes in and they're waiting on one person and we can't start because that one person's, running late. Now they've rented the studio for the whole day, but it's eating into their time. So not only are you wasting the studio's time, but you're also wasting the band's time as well. That's money that you guys are all paying for to try to get that studio time. So that's important.
Well, I think you definitely have to learn your lane in the studio. If you're not paying, you're not producing, you shouldn't be giving any unsolicited advice.
Yeah, exactly.
Stuff like that. And definitely if you're late, man, that's a tough one.
That is tough.
Because it's time wasted.
Right, and you don't want to do that, right? You don't want to waste.
Not only that is
you're wasting money
on that time.
Right, you're wasting your money and you're wasting your time. So those are the things, and believe it or not, those are the things that when we meet, we have up and coming artists. So we have new people that'll come into the studio. They're interested in what we do. They want to work in our studio, and we have these conversations just to kind of set those things in place, kind of guide them into to already thinking that from the beginning. We say, come prepared. Make sure that whatever you're going to be recording that day, you've already practiced it over and over and over. So when you come in, you're ready. You take advantage of that time. Don't come in and say, I'm going to just kind of, throw it off the cusp, and you haven't practiced at all. Because all you're going to do at the same time is waste your time, waste your money. Don't do that. This is an investment. That's one of the things that we tell all the artists or anybody that's coming in to record, look at this as an investment. You're not going to just capture something and just throw it out there. You're investing time and you're investing money in your art and your creativity that you're trying to share. So those are things that we put into place from the beginning. Yeah, those are the conversations we have. That's part of the etiquette to kind of guide them into that mentality, that type of thinking as well. One of the other things is we don't allow smoking in our studio. That's just part of the respect of the gear and our other guests that are there as well. So I know that there's places that'll just let you, do whatever, but our studio we have that's like a hard no. You can't smoke. You can go outside and smoke and then come back in. That's one of the options.
Now, one of the things that I try to focus on every podcast is partnership. And over the years, going from studio, transitioning from your bedroom or your house studio to a business and then running a business, those are all part of it. But along the way, you have to have some type of partnership. How important is partnership to you?
It's extremely important. I mean, I wouldn't have been able to start this studio without the partners that I have, and even the new partners that I've made, the relationships that I'm making every day in all these different types of industry has been immense, and that is what has helped me in my own journey through this is the relationships that I've built, right? The team that you've built around yourself, the people and the mentality that they think to be a community at the same time, that's part of it.
Another thing too is buying gear. This podcast isn't really about like purchasing gear or whatnot, but how did you go about designing your studio? Did you establish a partnership? Did you have a plan going in? I mean, I already know the story, but tell them.
Well, you're part of that journey, that's
Yeah.
for sure. Well, the idea of this came up with Rashawn, who's our chief engineer, and Shannon. And when we started to think of the idea, some of the planning had to do with how is this business going to be built. So we weren't looking at it as just not built construction wise, but how are we building it as a business, right? So, and the structure of it, because we weren't just thinking we're going to just do music. We're going to do a variety of things. So having
Which
that,
you do.
yes,
right?
We do a variety of things. It's a multifaceted.
What items are those? I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, not at all. We're a multimedia production company, so we do audio recording and video recording. We record artists, we record bands, but we also do audiobooks. We do podcasts in-house, we do video productions, and we've done commercials. We've worked with animation companies. We create music replacements in movies and video games. And I mean, I can continue on and on. We work with AI, automation systems, and helping implement those into other companies as well. Because as businesses grow, your needs will grow as well, including media. So we're kind of a outsourced media production company that helps place a media production company for other businesses as well. So kind of expanded to all of that. I mean, the idea as it grew, we were like, man, we really need to have all these lanes in place, right? All these different legal documents and all these entities that need to be in place for us to even do this type of business. So the space was like also important, but this foundation before the business even started was the biggest piece. Let's build a map, the blueprints, right? And then we can start building it. So that was a long journey in itself, just taking those steps into how do we create this studio, and then once we had that in place, we started to look at spaces and how we can reinvent the space to work as a production studio. We looked for a lot of different types of places downtown Jacksonville, and we actually ended up landing in at the most. It wasn't. It was the most unexpected place, which is the Blackstone Building. We're on the 6th floor. Now the strange thing is that there are studios like that in New York, and my dad would take me, with him when he would record in the studio. And I remember going up to like the 11th floor of some certain buildings, downtown, and the studios were upstairs. So to me, it was like, oh, I'm good with that. Let's go see what it's about. And we were able to find this space. And when we had that, we had some architects help us and create some certain dimensions on certain rooms. We had to capture the dimensions of the space and the height plus the insulation. There's a lot of intricate processes that go into building like an actually well-structured studio. Once we did that, I started to make connections with other people. I had connections in Atlanta, and I was able to get all of our acoustic panels handmade. They were all made for us in our studio, and each one was designed based on the space itself and the size and the dimensions and where the door was. Like, there's so many things that went into that, but that's probably another another episode, man, because that'll take a long time.
No, I think it's more than just the studio, right? It's the room that you're in. Like this room example is acoustically treated. I would say that it's not completely soundproof. If the guy next door is mowing the lawn, that's one thing. So like if I were to have someone over here and they were paying me for time and the dude next door wanted to mow the lawn, then I think that's a signal that if I want to continue to do this type of work, I need my own space. And within that your own space, you need to consider the walls. You need to consider the fact that there is going to be sound coming in and out of the walls.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to build a box within inside of a box, if that makes sense. So you know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
So that is layering the inside of your walls so it doesn't go out and it doesn't go in. But hey, don't forget the ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to have reflection in the rooms and different type of acoustical treatment, right? So reflection in the room is me, and there's no decay, there's no sound that followed my clap in the hand other than my voice. And that's the goal for inside the room. That's not always the goal, though, because if you are recording a live band, it's nice to have a little bit of room noise, but not anything to where it's like super echoey. I think a lot of studios fail with that, but they also fail because of ego, poor service, and a lack of structure. What makes your company different? I mean, I already know the answer. If you want me to tell you what I think, I want to tell you. It's a person called Shannon. Am I right?
Shannon is like when we talk about the relationships and who we need on our team, right? Like those are the important ones. And without Shannon,
she's a strong player, man.
She is
super strong.
And I will say this. I said to Shannon when we were doing this, before we were starting the idea of let's do this, I told her, I said, I won't do this without you. I will not do this without you, because only with you will I be able to even get the ball rolling the correct way, the way I had envisioned a studio. Because to me, it wasn't just, I didn't want to just do just a music studio, like a recording studio, because I felt that, especially where we were with trends, and that was one of the conversations that she and I had, was looking at trends, where things are going. Like her experience, comes from working with multi-billion-dollar companies. So who else better to have, on your team than with somebody who has that kind of experience to help you build and create this? And she's a partner in this, right? So she's part of this studio. So being part of that team and having your strong members, right, are important, right? So each one of us bring our own strength. And the more people that have specific strength that can help each other out to grow, the stronger your community will be, the stronger your business will be as well. And the relationships that you've built, they'll just continue to ripple,
Not only that, man, is the amount of time that it allows you to focus, right? So like when you're running this type of business, a studio, you have to worry about the business aspect of it, which takes away time from the artistic side of things.
100%.
And then it takes away from the post-production type of things. So it is better to have a good team, partnerships. I'm a partner to the studio because we're longtime friends. We share business. We send business back and forth to each other. We care about each other's success. And part of my success, I can honestly say, is because of Mixed Theory Studios. I would say actually a lot of my video success and just doing podcasting alone is, I owe it all to them, except for the content. See, they allowed me to be able to just be the artist. And for a while, they were my everything except me being the artist, which has kind of changed a little bit now because now I have the skill set to be able to handle more of the business side of things, more of the production side of things, and the artistic side of it.
Yeah,
So
and that's I want to say thank you first to you as well, because you helped us, and you helped us also save money too with and guidance, right? So building our studios, each room had different needs, right? Different equipment.
So you're saying one of them should have been the Jeff Aldrich studio?
One of them we could dedicate it to Jeff Aldrich
I
for
could
sure.
put a plaque in there.
It would just put a big plaque in that one room. But that is, again, talking about the relationships, right? The people that are on your team. And when we met, immediately we had a great rapport, the love for music and our experiences. We had a lot of things that were in common. And then just working with you was always an amazing, experience. You always taught us too, like new things coming out, or have you tried this? You're always there to help us, guide us too, because we can know a lot of stuff, but even I don't know everything, right? It's always good to have someone with experience and knowledge. So you were a big asset to that as well, because all the equipment that was there is all because of you and Guitar Center. So the pro gear stuff is all amazing. So appreciate that.
Thanks, man. It's a great feeling to be a part of something successful. I generally try to surround myself with people that are successful because hopefully they'll rub off on me. But they have definitely rubbed off on me, Mixed Theory Studios, Shannon, and Jesus.
Thank you, man.
Was there anything else that you wanted to talk about that you felt was important to tell the audience about us being a studio owner?
You touched on something, how you have to handle the business side and you don't have time to do some of the artists or, the production side of it. And that's 100% right. I can honestly say that I have been spending a lot of time on more the business side of it, building those relationships and other relationships with businesses. I still get to enjoy some of that artistry, but not like our chief engineer who's always in the studio. Rashawn is always in the studio, producing music and working with the artist. I can tap in when I can, and I do try to as well, just so I can still be in that, because the business part of it is a huge task as well when you're running a business. So having those right connections, those right assets, those right tool sets are going to help you at least get started. And if you're going to do this, always start from the heart. I feel like when you give from the heart, you will always just gain momentum. And, learning, stay hungry for knowledge, constantly learn. Don't just say, I know how to create music and then I'm good. I'll be, successful. It'll take more than that for sure. Having those tool sets and the assets and the knowledge in business and marketing, in media, and even technology as it continues to evolve, just being involved and learning, constantly learning. I'm always hungry for knowledge. I'm constantly learning things.
And I would say don't be afraid to ask for help, right? Asking for help is a sign of growth. It means you, like I said, going back to like if you're the artist or you're the engineer and that's what you need to focus on, you need to find a partner. You need to find someone you can rely on that is going to take care of the business side of things, the schedule, paying the bills and stuff like that. I would say that you're very blessed to have your wife, your best friend, your love to be side by side with you, and how special that is, because like after you've been around with someone for a while, just kind of like I did some space. But you guys make it work. It's continuing to work. You put out great products. And I just want to say thanks for coming on the show, man.
Thank you for having me, man. I appreciate it. It's a great honor, man. Thanks.
Hey, everybody, thanks for watching. This week, I want you to focus on improving your game. If you're starting out in the bedroom as a studio guy, what's your next step? Think ahead. Thanks for watching.